back again with another review, and this is actually a review request. This is for Kevin, and Kevin, thank you again for being a patron. He wanted me to talk about and review the original Time Machine and the remake, which I'll be talking about next. But this is a very good film here, directed by George Powell, who I looked at his filmography. He directed The War of the Worlds, and he also directed Seven Faces of Dr. Lao, which I've never seen. This came out in 1960. It stars Rod Taylor. You also have Alan Young in the film. Yvette, I'm going to mess up this last name here, but I'm going to go for it. Mimi Yu. And again, I apologize if I got it wrong. You also have Sebastian Cabot in the film. The screenplay is by David Duncan and based on the novel by H.G. Wells. And the story here, I mean, you have Rod Taylor in the film. He builds a time machine, and he's warned, about, tempting the laws of, providence and stuff from his colleagues. And he decides to visit the future. And he jumps ahead in the future 14 years. And one thing about the movie, in the going through the future, you have this mannequin in the window, and you see the changing of styles, fashion, throughout the years. And that's the one thing that really, sticks out with me when it comes to the time travel elements in the movie. And, he jumps ahead 40 years, and he meets the son of his friend before the war. And then he travels 1,000 years into the future, where he's in this post-apocalyptic world that's inhabited by this society called the Eloi, and they're being hunted by the Morlocks in the movie. And that's kind of the plot here to the film, or the gist of the story. But what really for me holds the film together is Rod Taylor. Now, I haven't seen Rod Taylor in a lot of stuff. The one thing that when I was looking at his IMDb, and I'm like, okay, he was in Walker, Texas Ranger. That I remember. I think he was the father of Alex in a couple of episodes. And I'm like, that was him? I had no idea. Why am I just finding this out? Unfortunately, he's passed away. But Rod Taylor, for me, does a really good job here. Really, for me, again, it's him that really holds the film together. The supporting cast here, I mean, there's not a lot of people that I recognize or that I have seen before. I mean, they're fine for what they do. I mean, again, I've never seen any of these actors before and other stuff. But, for me, also, what really works about the movie, the production value. I mean, and not only that, but, the time machine, the look of the time machine, I really appreciate the way it looks. And, for me, when I know I shouldn't talk about the remake, which I don't hate the remake. I think it's a passable movie. But I do think, for me, with this movie, the time machine looks the best in the original. I will say that. And the fact that, when he's going through the future, the time machine is stationary and the surroundings change. And I really appreciate that. I mean, for what they were able to pull off here in 1960, I think it's done fairly well. Even though, again, it's a machine that stands still, but everything is changing around the machine. But again, I really appreciate that. And, going into the future, you have a little bit of where, there's this, he's in the future, and you have the, alarm for, I forgot what you call it, an alarm for, when there's a bomb about to come. There's a term for that. I shouldn't know it, but, and then, fast forward to the post-apocalyptic, future where he meets the Eloi, and they live in this kind of like dome-like structure And then, like, you have the Morlocks that dwell in these wells. You know, they live in these wells down below. And, you know, I thought for me, the story here was better. Again, compared to the remake, I think the story here is the strongest. The direction here is the strongest. The production value is the strongest. The look of the Morlocks, I thought were fine. And that's one thing I thought the remake... The one thing I didn't mind was the Morlocks. I think, and people might disagree, but for me, I thought the Morlocks looked a bit better in the remake. And again, I know just saying that, people are going to, people are going to disagree, and that's fine. I mean, I won't, the CGI, and I'll talk about with that when I talk about the remake. Yeah, I didn't really care for the CGI when it comes to the movements of the Morlocks, but I thought the Morlocks were, done here fine. I mean, I thought, they had this kind of blue look and the white hair and the eyes. I think they had like orange eyes or something. And I liked that, they lived below the surface and these like caves. And I thought the caves were done fairly well, for the production value. And that basically you find out that the Morlocks are eating the Eloi. They're cannibals. And yeah, I mean, I thought, again, the production value, going back to that, I thought it was fairly done well for this time period, from London to go into the future and then way into the future with the post-apocalyptic land and the different, the society of the Eloi and them being hunted by the Morlocks. And again, the direction is strong here. The score. Who did the score here? Yeah, it doesn't say on the back here, but I thought the score was good. And, it's definitely, I would say it's a classic. I mean, it was a first time watch, but I could see why this movie here, it's regarded as a classic. I think, again, Rod Taylor gives a really good performance here. Sorry about that. I think the supporting characters do fine. One thing here too that I think for me that makes this better than the remake is that in the remake they kind of focused on the romance angle, or they wanted to throw in some romance or romantic elements. Here that's not really a thing. I mean, you got the one girl in the future that is part of the Eloi, but they didn't really emphasize on that. So again, I think that's what makes this better. I mean, it's a better film overall in general compared to the 2002 movie. This is by far the better film. I'm just, kind of giving comparison if people want to know, or if people are curious about. Yeah, I do think this is better. This is a far better movie. It's a classic movie. And yeah, so I don't know what, I mean, if I talk about the features, there is a documentary, behind the scenes documentary on the Blu-ray here. Behind the scenes documentary Time Machine, The Journey Back, hosted by Rod Taylor. And featuring Alan Young and Whit Bissell. And you also have a trailer too. And I think the documentary is like an hour. It could be a little bit longer or shorter than the hour, but you do have a documentary on here. And overall, again, it's a very good film. Definitely, again, a classic. And I thought everything, was done well. Strong direction. Rod Taylor's very good. The production value, I thought, was done well. And thank you to Kevin for the review request. And definitely glad to have this in my collection. But thank you to Kevin again. Yeah, very good movie. And stay tuned for my review of the remake.